Hey there guys, and we're going to look at how to think before we post, the considerations about social media, digital footprints, and how we interact with other people online. First thing, one that we probably know, posting online through Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat is never really private. This content is always redistributable. It's as simple as a copy paste or a forwarding. But ultimately, if the point of origin is you and the endpoint is someone else, it can always be copied. And another important point here is that posting online is always permanent. That data is written and rewritten as it travels the internet from one point to another. It's a little bit more complicated than these three pictures of servers with arrows flying around, but for our purposes, we want to consider that data to be permanent. So what's all that add up to? It adds up to what is commonly known as a digital footprint. A digital footprint is essentially the trail of data that you leave as you traverse the internet. Some of this is left behind on purpose, and some of it is, well, not left behind on purpose. The stuff that's not left behind on purpose, a passive digital footprint, is created without that client interaction or activation. That would be like a cookie from a website collecting information about where you've been and what you've been doing. And then the active one, which is what we'll be talking more about right now, is created by you. This would be a Facebook profile, your Twitter account, Instagram, these kinds of things. Travel the internet as data and come up in the form of pictures and text. And we have to decide what is that sharing of information that you want to do about yourself. What are the effects of it? We probably should work backwards from there. Well, the effects can be current and future employment opportunities and current and future relationships. Those are two important factors. There are more, but these are the ones that we want to reflect on a little bit. And how do we manage that? Well, Matt Ivester wrote a book called LOLOMG. And there are 10 tests that we want to look at before we post. These are the tests we should think about. Are we treating others the way that we would want to be treated? How do you want to be treated? Do you want to be bullied? Do you want to have people use unkind language towards you, paint a picture of you that is inaccurate, that is mean through these social mediums? And the Golden Rule 2.0 is going to require something we call empathy. And that is essentially, are you treating others the way that you think they want to be treated? Sometimes our threshold for shenanigans is a little higher than others, and that's definitely an important consideration. The laws and policies test. Is what you're doing violate the law? Bellarmine Code of Integrity. Is it harassment? Everything from plagiarism to downloading illegal content. Could get you sued or arrested? These are the kinds of tests that you want to consider, and they're important because if any of those things is true, then it's probably not a good idea. The everybody test. What if everyone was doing the same thing you were doing? It's kind of like digital littering. If we all threw our cups out the window, the roads would get pretty messy. But this has a different kind of damage in the sense that we're affecting the way people feel. So again, it requires some empathy. What if everyone was making that harassing comment towards someone? How do our actions affect other people, and what if we multiplied those actions? The offline test. What's the real world equivalent of what you were doing? There are a lot of great examples of this. One metaphor is, would you put a billboard up on 17 of what you just said? Would you put a billboard up of that picture? The internet is just a giant billboard in many cases, even if what we think we're posting is within a closed circuit of friends. It again is redistributable. So would you do that in the real world? The real name test. The internet sometimes requires some anonymity. We don't always want to give our name to everyone when we sign up for an account. That's something you have to use your discretion on. But in terms of our actions, are you willing to own it? Would you put your name on it in terms of what you're doing? The emotion test. Are you doing this because you're angry, jealous, or emotionally charged? That's a life skill. That's not just a computer skill or something to do with digital media. Think about why you're doing what you're doing, and a lot of times 24 hours will work wonders. So before you post or respond to someone who's trolling or trying to start a flame war or something like that, just sleep on it. Don't let the emotions dictate your actions, especially online, because it's different if you're having a yelling match in a hallway. That's not necessarily going to be broadcast, but anything that would be online is there for everyone to see in many cases. The whole world test. Most of the world, or at least a good chunk of it, is connected. And by connected, of course, that just means access to the internet and the World Wide Web. And so are you okay with the world knowing what you're doing? We live in communities. Are you okay with that community knowing what you're doing? So think about that before you take action online. The Gedit test. This one's a little bit difficult to explain, coincidentally, appropriately enough. But the bottom line is inside jokes and other things that might be construed as offensive because people don't get it, right? Again, those inside jokes are a good example. If it's something that you're trying to communicate that maybe not everyone's in on what you're trying to say, or it's not easy for you to convey an idea, then think twice before you post it. Some things are just better said face to face or in another format. And then the 10th and most important test. We have two lives that we lead oftentimes in our connected digital society. There is, of course, the one that you lead when you wake up in the morning and brush your teeth and get ready for school. That's your real life. And then there is that digital life, which we jump into pretty quickly throughout our day and spend a lot of time in. We paint a picture with social media in a variety of different formats. Again, text, video, images, things like that. All of these things add up to that digital footprint again and add up to that persona. You have to take charge of this picture that gets painted over here in so much as you are able. And think about what this reflects back to you as a person and reflects back on you as a person. What story does this tell other people about you? And take charge of that, because it's important. This is going to be a long-lasting picture. So take charge of it and think about how it reflects on you as a person.